Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. Today's video is a preview of Week 2, New York Giants versus the Carolina Panthers. And after what I saw last week, I am so excited to see what this Giants team can do in their home opener. The excitement is at an all-time high. The fan base is ready to go. And I know the energy in the stadium is going to be fantastic. But before we get into this preview, I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. And again, if this is your first time on this channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. The channel is growing. I'm on my way to 1,000 subs, and it's all because of you. Now back to football. So we have the Carolina Panthers, and the first thing that I think about when I think about the Carolina Panthers is Christian McCaffrey. Now we know they made some moves. They picked up Baker Mayfield. They got wide receivers like Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. So they have some playmakers there. But if you want to know how to beat the Carolina Panthers, just look and see what the Cleveland Browns did last week. You have to force Baker Mayfield to make mistakes. And it's not the hardest thing to do. It is not the hardest thing to do. Now, for our defensive line, one thing that I think will help in making Baker Mayfield make these mistakes is getting our hands up, getting into his line of sight, into those throwing lanes, and being able to bat the ball down. Last week, he might have had 4 or 5 bat downs. He is a shorter quarterback. He does try to move around to try to find those throwing lanes. So we can get that pressure up the middle with Dexter Lawrence, force him out of the pocket, and try to see if he can try to work the outside to try to create some throwing lanes, but get our hands up. We can possibly tip some passes and get some interceptions. And I think that's going to be one of the keys for our defense, is to get that pressure and also get our hands up in order to deflect, some passes. Now, when it comes to Christian McCaffrey, he is a different style of running back than Derrick Henry, and we know this. He's actually more like a Saquon Barkley, where you can use him in the running game and also the passing game. Now, how do you try to lock up a guy like Christian McCaffrey? Now, depending on how they use him, our run defense is solid with those regular runs, whether it's stretch, powers, bellies, and things like that. Now, the tricky thing is when they start to use Christian McCaffrey in motion and get to lining him up as like a receiver in the slot, things like that. Now, you want to try to avoid one-on-one Christian McCaffrey with one of your linebackers. We don't have that type of linebacker that can cover a running back with that skill set. Now, Tate Crowder is an athletic linebacker, but he is not, and I don't expect him to be able to, stick with Christian McCaffrey, just like we don't expect a linebacker to stick with Saquon Barkley. So I think we go heavy with the 3 safety sets. But again, it's all up to how much pressure we can get on Baker Mayfield. If we can disrupt his line of sight, especially affect those throwing lanes. That's one way to get Christian McCaffrey out of the picture. Now, I'm not saying that we can absolutely shut him down. He's going to make some plays, absolutely, as Christian McCaffrey. He's one of the top running backs in the league for a reason. But I think we can disrupt Baker Mayfield enough to make Christian McCaffrey not as big of a factor as he might be, especially against other defenses. And I think whatever happens in this game, the Giants showed last week that they're able to adjust. They went into halftime, made some adjustments, and they came back like an entirely different team. So if if they're able to get some plays, make some plays on us early, I think Wink and that defensive staff are smart enough to get these guys ready and make some adjustments on the fly. I don't want to wait till halftime. If we can make those adjustments live and right there, then I would like to see that more than possibly getting down or getting in a hole and trying to dig ourselves out like we did last week. But again, if we have to do that, I believe this team can do that. We showed some grit last week, and I'm so proud of what I saw. Now, moving to the offensive side for us. Again, last week we started off slow. We cannot have another game like that where we're starting off slow. We need to start fast. So whatever scheme they decide to cook up for this week, I don't expect it to be the same as Tennessee, because that Carolina defense is different from Tennessee. They're a lot more aggressive. They blitz a lot more, similar to what Wink does. He tries to load it up and get those mismatches and overload sides and get the line guessing. But again, I think the quick game is going to be the best thing for us. And another thing to help slow down an aggressive defense are screens. Now, we had a history as Giants not being able to run a successful screen, but we saw in the preseason that we're able to run those screens better than we have in the past. And I think that if Carolina wants to be aggressive the way they've shown so far, we need to have a couple of screen plays. Another thing I think we should do is go deep early. Even if you don't make the completion, give them something to think about. Keep those safeties honest, because right now everybody saw what Saquon Barkley did, and I think that they might decide to put more people in the box because of that. But if you attack them deep early, I think that's something that we can do to try to keep those safeties in that defense as a whole honest. That way we can be a more balanced offense ourselves. But again, attack them deep. Use our wide receivers. We barely saw Kadarius Toney, and we barely saw Kenny Golladay last week. Somehow, some way, these guys have to be a part of this plan, and a part of this plan early. Kadarius Toney is a home run, almost a home run every time he gets his hands on the ball. He is a bona fide threat. Now, Kenny Golladay, we gave him a hard time all preseason. Talked about his separation. Was it his hip? And then if you look at the All-22 that came out recently, he was getting separation. He was open a lot in the game last week. It's just that where he was in Daniel Jones' progression and how comfortable, or the pressure that Daniel Jones had during those plays, he wasn't targeted as much. This game, I think, is, I don't want to say force feed the ball to Kenny Golladay, but get him involved. These cornerbacks, it's a young cornerback group. Test these guys out. See what these guys can do. And again, what are they going to do? We have Kenny Golladay, we have Sterling Shepard, and we have Kadarius Toney, along with Barkley in the pass as a passing threat or a receiving threat. We need to be able to be creative and get these guys involved early and pretty much see where the weak spot is in their defense and then exploit that. So if it's going to be a running game like it did last week, fine, I'm good with that. But I want to see them test their secondary, test those corners, and take advantage of how aggressive this team is. So again, I just want to get into some other things that are going on with the offensive line. Now, last week they had the rotating guards, whether it was Ezeudu or Bredesen. And I think that Joshua Ezeudu, our third-round pick, earned the right to start this week. And you can play that game with switching guys back and forth, but at some point in time, you have to build that chemistry with Andrew Thomas and whoever that left guard is going to be. Shane Lemieux was penciled in the summer. Obviously, he got hurt. But right now, we're looking at Bredesen and we're looking at Ezeudu. And if you look at the comparison between those two last week, Ezeudu, even though he gave up that sack that ended up being the sack fumble on Daniel Jones, after that play, he had a strong game. Whether it was running and passing, he did a pretty good job after that. And I would say that he did a better job than Bredesen. But now, the coaches know best. They watch the tape, they study, they know their guys. So we'll see what happens and who's starting, in that first series on Sunday. But again, I think Joshua Ezeudu is probably going to be my decision at left guard, because you want to build that chemistry. Because I'm thinking about now, but I'm also thinking about the future and down the line. And Joshua Ezeudu has a lot of talent, has good feet. He needs to get a little bit stronger, but the more games he plays, the better he's going to be, and the better his offensive line as a whole is going to be. So I'm excited to see that. Now, we lost Aaron Robinson as well. Appendicitis, had to get his appendix removed, and he's going to be out for, who knows, it could be 3, 4, all the way up to 6 weeks. Who's going to be the cornerback too? Is it going to be Cordell Flott? Is it going to be Darnay Holmes? Are they going to move Holmes outside and possibly move Flott inside as a nickel corner? I'm not sure. With the 3 safety setup, and we are getting Dane Belton back, so in those 3 safety sets, are you going to move Love into the boundary spot? You know what I mean? Are you going to call up Jefferson to play in that 3 safety spot with Belton, McKinney, and now Jefferson? Or is it going to be one of the other guys? Are you going to depend on a guy like Justin Lane that you picked up off of waivers? Now, that's a very interesting thing, and it's something that you need to watch for going into this game. I'm curious to see what happens with that. But again, at the end of the day, I trust this team. I trust this coaching staff, and whoever's in that position at CB2, hopefully they can hold it down until Aaron Robinson is back. And who knows, if they do a great job, Aaron Robinson might be able to take his time and get fully healthy. But again, at the end of the day, the best friend to the secondary is a good pass rush. And if we can get home, and I keep saying if we can get home, disrupt Baker Mayfield, we probably won't have to worry about these cornerbacks as much in that weak spot that we have at the CB2 spot, or I would say the unproven or unknown player that's going to be in that CB2 spot. So again, I want to thank you guys for vibing with me. This is just a quick preview of my thoughts going into this game against the Carolina Panthers. But please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.